My name is Samuel Whitaker, and at 82 years old, I discovered something nobody warns elderly people about. Loneliness can kill parts of you long before your body dies. Not dramatically, quietly, conversation by conversation, silent dinner by silent dinner, empty room by empty room, until eventually, you stop feeling like a person and start feeling like a memory everyone else already moved on from. My children placed me in a retirement community after my second heart surgery. At first, they called it the safest option. Then they called it practical. Then eventually, they stopped asking whether I was happy there at all. And the strange part, everything only became a problem after I met someone who made me feel alive again. Before I tell you how my own children tried to stop me from remarrying at 82 years old because they feared losing their inheritance, make sure to subscribe, because this story taught me something painful. Some families are comfortable watching elderly parents grow lonely. As long as loneliness remains financially convenient, I spent most of my life in Portland, Oregon with my wife, Margaret. 53 years together, 53 years of ordinary love. And honestly, ordinary love is deeply underrated. People romanticize passion constantly, but long marriages survive because of consistency. Morning coffee rituals, shared grocery lists, inside jokes repeated for decades, quiet companionship during hard years. Margaret was the kindest person I ever knew. Not dramatic kindness, practical kindness. The kind that remembers everyone's birthdays and notices when strangers seem sad in grocery stores. We raised 3 children together, Elaine, Robert, and Curtis. Like most parents, Margaret and I spent decades quietly building our lives around their futures. College tuition, sports practices, emergency financial help, grandchildren, family vacations, everything. And honestly, we were happy doing it. Then Margaret got sick. Dementia. Slow at first, then devastatingly fast. Anyone who has watched dementia consume someone they love understands this. You lose the person twice. First emotionally, then physically. For 7 years I cared for her at home. Bathing, feeding, medication management, sleepless nights, fear confusion. Some days she remembered my name. Some days she looked at me like I was a stranger breaking into her house. Still, I stayed. Every day. Until the very end. Margaret died holding my hand during early spring rain. And honestly, part of me died with her. After 53 years beside someone, silence becomes physically unbearable. The house felt haunted by absence afterward. Her reading glasses still near the couch. Her gardening shoes still beside the back door. Voicemails still saved on my phone because deleting them felt like betrayal. At first, the children became extremely attentive after her death, especially Elaine. Daily calls, meal deliveries, constant concert. Then came my second heart surgery 2 years later. Complications during recovery frightened everyone, including me, and slowly conversations about next steps started appearing. Assisted living, retirement communities, safety, support, practicality. I resisted strongly initially. Very strongly, because deep down I understood something terrifying. Once elderly people leave their homes permanently, parts of their identity often disappear too. Still, fear wears people down eventually. Fear of falling alone. Fear of another medical emergency. Fear of burdening children already overwhelmed with their own lives. So finally, I agreed. The retirement community itself was beautiful. Landscaped gardens, comfortable apartments, organized activities, polite staff. Everything looked ideal from the outside, but emotionally, it felt like waiting. Waiting for medications, waiting for meals, waiting for visitors who increasingly arrived less often each month. That's another truth nobody discusses honestly about aging. People promise they'll visit constantly. Then life resumes around them while your world grows smaller and smaller. At first, the loneliness nearly destroyed me. Entire weeks passed where meaningful conversation barely existed. My children visited mostly out of obligation. Short visits, practical conversations, doctor updates, scheduling, then rushed goodbyes. I don't blame them entirely. Modern life exhausts people emotionally. Still, loneliness hurts regardless of explanation. Then I met Evelyn. She moved into the apartment across the courtyard about 14 months after I arrived. 76 years old. Former art teacher. Widowed. Sharp sense of humor. completely unimpressed by self-pity. Our first conversation happened accidentally near the mailboxes. I complained about cafeteria coffee. She laughed and said, "At our age, surviving bad coffee is proof God still has plans for us." That was the first genuine laugh I'd had in months. After that, friendship happened naturally. Morning walks, book discussions, card games, shared dinners, simple companionship, and gradually, something unexpected happened. I started feeling alive again. Not young, not magically healed from grief. Alive. There's a difference. Evelyn understood widowhood in ways younger people never fully can. The guilt of laughing again after loss. The strange loneliness of surviving longer than the person who knew you best. The fear of becoming emotionally irrelevant. We understood each other immediately. And honestly, that connection saved me emotionally. 6 months later, we fell in love. Real love. Gentle love. Late-life love built from companionship instead of fantasy. I didn't expect that possibility anymore at 82 years old. Neither did Evelyn. But human beings remain emotionally alive far longer than society feels comfortable admitting. That's when problems began. At first, my children acted politely supportive, awkwardly supportive. Then subtle tension appeared. Questions about finances, estate planning, living arrangements, legal structures. The conversations became strangely intense, surprisingly quickly. One evening during dinner, Elaine casually asked, "So, what exactly does Evelyn expect long-term?" Expect. Interesting word. Not what do you want. Not are you happy. Expect. As though love after 80 automatically becomes financial strategy. Robert grew increasingly suspicious, too. Apparently, Evelyn's adult son had financial problems years earlier. Suddenly, my children became amateur detectives investigating motives. None of them actually spent meaningful time getting to know her. They simply analyzed risk. That realization hurt more than I expected. Then came the confrontation. About 8 months into our relationship, I casually mentioned Evelyn and I were considering marriage. The room went completely silent. Actually silent. Then Curtis laughed nervously. "You're kidding, right?" I wasn't. And honestly, the reactions afterward devastated me emotionally. My children didn't respond like worried family. They responded like threatened investors. Suddenly, conversations revolved around protecting assets, prenuptial agreements, trust structures, potential manipulation, inheritance complications. Not once during that first conversation did anyone ask whether I loved her. Not once. That realization broke something inside me permanently. Then things became uglier. Elaine privately implied Evelyn targeted vulnerable widowers intentionally. Robert warned me about elder financial exploitation. Curtis outright said, "Dad, this makes you look pathetic." Pathetic. At 82 years old, after a lifetime of sacrifice for my family, my happiness suddenly embarrassed them. That sentence stayed in my head for weeks afterward. Then came the cruelest moment of all. One afternoon, I overheard Elaine speaking privately to Robert outside my apartment. If he marries her, Mom's entire legacy gets destroyed. Destroyed. As though Margaret's memory could somehow be erased because loneliness didn't bury me permanently beside her. That night I sat alone, crying harder than I cried after moving into assisted living, because suddenly I realized something horrifying. My children had emotionally accepted my loneliness as permanent. They preferred grieving father over emotionally independent father. Why? Because dependent elderly parents feel safer emotionally, more controllable, less complicated financially. The next morning, Evelyn found me sitting alone near the courtyard fountain before sunrise. I finally told her everything. Every accusation, every fear, every conversation. She listened quietly for nearly an hour. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Your children are struggling because your happiness reminds them you're still living, not just aging." That sentence changed everything for me. Because suddenly I understood. They weren't only afraid of losing money. They were afraid of change. Afraid of replacing old family structures. Afraid of confronting the reality that elderly parents remain emotionally human long after children unconsciously stop seeing them that way. Still, the conflict escalated badly. Attorneys became involved. My children pushed aggressively for asset protections and trust revisions before any marriage discussions continued. At first, I felt furious, insulted, humiliated. Then eventually, something unexpected happened. Honest conversations. Real conversations. Ugly conversations. About grief. Fear inheritance. Ogging. And slowly painful truths emerged. After Margaret died, my children unconsciously froze me emotionally in place beside her memory. Moving on even gently felt disloyal to them somehow, especially because they were still grieving too. Understanding that softened my anger slightly. Not completely, but enough. Eventually, Evelyn suggested something remarkable herself. A carefully structured legal agreement protecting family assets transparently. Not because she wanted money, because she wanted peace. That gesture changed everything, especially for Elaine. For the first time, my children finally started seeing Evelyn as a person instead of a threat. Today, Evelyn and I are married. Happily, quietly. We travel occasionally, argue about crossword puzzles, hold hands during evening walks. Simple things, human things. And surprisingly, my children eventually accepted us fully. Not immediately, but honestly, because eventually they realized something important. Elderly people do not stop needing companionship simply because younger generations feel uncomfortable imagining it. Before Margaret died, she once told me something I didn't fully understand until much later. The cruelest thing families do to elderly people is expecting them to survive emotionally without needing new joy. Now I understand exactly what she meant. Have you ever felt like people stopped seeing your emotional needs simply because of your age? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Because growing older should never mean surrendering your right to love, companionship, and happiness again.